All right, everyone, this is the main idea for domain and range. So I want to start off with interval notation. Interval notation looks either like brackets, so like 3, 5 would mean the interval from 3 to 5, so 3, 4, and 5. You can also use parentheses, 3 to 5, which means something slightly different that I'll talk about in a second. But interval notation is used to describe a span of numbers. An interval can be as small as a single number. So like we could have an interval that's just the number 1. It would look something like this. We could have an interval that's just the number 20. It would look something like this. But sometimes, instead of just being a single number long, an interval can be infinitely long. Infinitely long. When we're doing that, we would use parentheses and we would say from negative infinity to positive infinity. It's good to read these as from the first number to the second number. So this one would say from 3 to 5. This one's just a single number, so it would just be 1. All right, despite looking similar, interval notation is not an ordered pair. This looks like an ordered pair. I mean, it's indistinguishable from an ordered pair. It looks exactly the same. But if I tell you that this is the domain or range or an interval, you got to know that it, despite looking the same, is not the same. We use brackets if an interval includes an actual number. For example, in this interval, this says from, here, let me write that in there, from 2 to 7. This would be the same as with like a little underline under it, because that means or equal to, which means we would include 2 and 7. If I use brackets, that means I'm including the stuff on the outside. If we use, let me switch colors. If I use parentheses, we use that if we get almost to the number, but not quite. So in this one, if I'm going from 2 to 7, because I'm using parentheses, it would look something like this, where it doesn't have the line under it, meaning we don't include those numbers. So the numbers included in that list would be like 3, 4, 5, and 6. Keep in mind, this would also include 6.5, 6.9, and 6.99. It just doesn't include 7. Domain and range for a line are almost always the interval of like the entire interval. So like almost always the interval of negative infinity to positive infinity. When I say negative infinity, I'm thinking like, look at the number line here, okay? We got like 0 right here. We've got like 100 right here. We got 1,000 right here. And this keeps going on forever. So this is where infinity would be. Over here, we've got like negative 100, negative 1,000, tons of numbers in between here. And then way over here, we've got negative infinity. So when I say negative infinity, I mean all the small numbers. And when I say positive infinity, I mean all the big numbers. When you're looking at something two-dimensional, like when we've got an axis like this, think of domain as the shadow that the line would cast on the x-axis, and range as the shadow cast on the y-axis.